Okay, so this is probably the biggest fumble I've seen in recent AI history. So Anthropic just fumbled big time. They're laying down the banhammer for anyone trying to power their OpenClaw with Anthropic or with Claude. So if we take a look at a recent tweet from Rob Zolkos here, he says that major Claude code policy clear up from Anthropic using OAuth tokens obtained through Claude Free, Pro, or Max accounts in any other product, tool, or service, including the agent SDK, which I'm going to explain in just a second, is not permitted. So they're not directly talking about OpenClaw users here, but I think we all know that they're talking about OpenClaw here. So an agent SDK is basically Anthropic's developer toolkit for building AI apps that can take action in loops, right? So think of it this way. Normally, when you use Claude, you send a message, you get a response, done, one shot. The agent SDK lets developers build programs where Claude can go back and forth, call a tool, read the result, decide what to do next, call another tool, and repeat that until a task is finished. That's the agentic loop. So when Rob talks about the policy where agent SDK is not permitted, he's saying that even if you're using Anthropic's own tool for building AI agents, you still cannot power it with your subscription tokens. You need to use API rates. And that's why Claude is fumbling and the community is getting so mad, and a lot of people are canceling their Claude subscriptions because Anthropic built a tool specifically for building agents, then told paying subscribers they can't use their subscription with it. And if you think that this doesn't affect you, you might have to think again, because it affects me too. Because what happened here isn't just about OAuth tokens, right? It's about how these AI companies view us as a customer or as a commodity. Tarek here, an employee of Anthropic, says, "Apologies, this was a docs cleanup we rolled out that's caused some confusion. Nothing is changing about how you can use the agent SDK and Max subscription." Trying to go back on their word. So Rob's tweet is like clear, specific, professional policy language. OAuth tokens from Free, Pro, and Max are not permitted. And Tarek setting, sorry about that. That was a docs cleanup. Nothing is changing about how you can use agent SDK and Max subscriptions. And down here, Tarek says that we want to encourage local development and experimentation with the agent SDK and Claude-P. If you're building a business on top of agent SDK, you should use an API key instead. We'll make sure that's clearer in our docs. So at this point, they're just pretty much banning people whenever they feel like it, but then there isn't a strict policy in their docs. So we take a look at the documentation here. It says OAuth authentication is intended exclusively for Claude Code and Claude AI or Claude Cowork. Using OAuth tokens obtained through Claude Free, Pro, or Max accounts and any other tool or service is not permitted. So what Claude-P means, I think he's referring to Claude CLI running in pipe mode. Pipe mode lets you feed input directly into Claude code from the command line, like piping text from another script or tool. Developers use it to chain Claude into automated workflows without the interactive chat interface. Essentially what he's saying is use Claude Code's pipe mode for tinkering, but if it's real business, pay API rates. And I don't think this enforcement is anything new. They're just kind of like hovering between the lines right now. Anthropic actually deployed server-side blocks on January 9th, 2026, so like a month ago, over 5 weeks before the documentation went live. So if you're still running Claude OAuth and OpenClaw, you might be already on borrowed time, you might not. Some people are saying that they have the Max plan and it works perfectly fine. I'm currently on the Max plan as well, and it works perfectly fine. I upgraded to the Max plan for $100 a month, so I still think it's just depending on how they feel. So why did Anthropic do this? And I kind of get why they did this, because a $200 per month Max plan was giving users up to 20,000 worth of API equivalent token usage, if I can make that comparison at all. It's like Netflix charging you $15 a month while you download $1,500 worth of movies, right? And if we take a look at the pricing here, Claude Opus 4.6 is around $25 per million output tokens, and for $5 per million input tokens, right? While Sonnet 4.6 is $3 per million input tokens, $15 per million output tokens. And these rack up, right? This is expensive because every single message you send to your OpenClaw bot uses approximately 50,000 tokens as a baseline just to say hello, right? Prompting the SolMD file, it takes around 2,000 to 5,000 tokens, 10,000 to 30,000 tokens for conversation history and memory related tasks, 5 to 10K tokens for tool definitions, 3 to 8,000 for skill configurations. So think of it this way, right? So every time you text your AI assistant, it rereads your entire instruction manual first. Those 50,000 tokens are the assistant rereading the manual before it even says hello. And I wanted to reference this document right here, which is the things I wish someone told me before I almost gave up on OpenClaw, because I actually wish I knew this when I started. And I think this was super valuable to share as well. The first one is don't run everything through your best mode, right? This is the single biggest mistake. Heartbeats, cron checks, and routine tasks don't need Opus or Sonnet, right? I'll talk a bit about the hybrid approach that I'm implementing for myself later on in this video. So you want to set up a tiered model or a hybrid configuration using a cheap model like HiQ, Gemini, Flash, or even like Ollama or DeepSeek as your primary for general tasks, and keep a stronger model as as a fallback model. So some people have got per user requests from 20 to 40K tokens down to just like 1.5K, just like we mentioned just now, right? Just saying hello costs 50,000 tokens. And then switch models mid-session with the model as well. The second rule is that your agent needs rules, and not just a rule, but a lot of them. So out of the box, OpenClaw is pretty dumb. It will loop, repeat itself, forget context, and make weird decisions. So you need to add guardrails and kind of like a parental control to keep it in check, right? You want to create skills in your skill.md file that explicitly tell it how to behave, anti-looping rules, compaction summaries, task checking, and the agents that work well are the ones which are given heavily customized instruction sets. And you must actually do the research yourself and do not assume that the agent knows everything. The third point is, if you tell your agent to work on this overnight, it doesn't work the way you think it does. If you ask your agent to work on something and then close the chat, it will forget, right? Sessions are stateful. For background work, you need cron jobs with isolated session targets, right? This spins up independent agent sessions that run on a schedule and message you results. Fourth thing, in my opinion, one of the most important ones is don't try to set up email, calendar, Telegram, web scraping, cron jobs all at once. Make sure you perfect one first and then move on to the next, right? Every integration is a separate failure mode, right? Get one single workflow working perfectly like a morning brief cron and then add the next one. Fifth one is the save what works, right? Compaction loses context over time. So use state files, fill in your workspace docs, and store important decisions somewhere persistent so that less your agent has to relearn, better it performs. This is how it relates to our Anthropic topic today. So the most frustration comes from model chat quality does not equal to agent quality. Claude Sonnet and Opus, GPT 5.2 and Kimi K2 all handle tool calls well. And GPT 5.1 mini is very cheap, but multiple people here have called it pretty useless for agent work. So let's talk a bit about the timeline here, because I think this is pretty interesting to share. And I think this ties into the AI politics a little bit. So mid-January 2026, ClawdBot, or Peter Steinberger's project, goes viral. January 9th, 2026, Anthropic quietly blocks OAuth tokens server-side in third-party tools. Late January, Anthropic forces Peter to change the name ClawdBot because it's too close to Claude. Peter then renames it to moltbot, then OpenClaw. And Peter actually asked Sam Altman if the name is okay, and Altman approves. This means that they already had an ongoing relationship. Early February, Peter flies to San Francisco, meets all the major companies, OpenAI, Meta, and Google, but he decides to join OpenAI because they want to keep it open source. So that was a massive win on OpenAI's side. 2 days ago, Anthropic publishes the official OAuth ban documentation, but then I still think it's a very gray area. Some people are getting banned, some people aren't. Some people are getting TOS, some people aren't. On the same day, OpenAI and Peter confirms that the Codex OAuth works with OpenClaw. And Gergely Oros replied to Rob saying, "This is a big win for Codex, Minimax, and others." And this is a tweet that Peter Steinberger reposted as well. Andrew Warner also tweeted that this would be a great time for Sam Altman to step in and let's use OpenAI subscriptions with OpenClaw regarding this Anthropic ban, right? And Peter says that already works. OpenAI publicly said that already. So I feel like there's a couple chess moves here being played in the AI politics world, right? The first one is that Anthropic first played defense, right? And I completely get it, right? They had every legal right to protect the Claude trademark, but they forced a name change on a project that was bringing them new paying customers. They didn't offer to work with Peter, no partnership, no sponsorship, no let's build this together. But imagine suing the food blogger who's sending hundreds of hungry customers to your restaurant because their website name was similar to yours. It's still technically legal, but it's just not the smartest play, right? While Anthropic was playing defense, OpenAI was playing offense. OpenAI was courting Peter, right? Sam Altman personally approved the name OpenClaw, and they gave Peter access to unreleased research, and they offered him the role of leading the next generation of personal agents, and they're still committing to keeping OpenClaw open source. And OpenAI managed to get the creator, the 100,000 plus Discord community, and the entire ecosystem. And I feel like this is Windsurf all over again, right? In June 2025, OpenAI acquired Windsurf for $3 billion. Anthropic then cut their Claude access with less than a week's notice, and Jared Kaplan said on stage, "It would be odd for us to sell Claude to OpenAI." In August 2025, Anthropic cut off OpenAI's own direct access to Claude models, and the pattern that I'm seeing here, if a third-party tool gets popular using Claude and it's connected to OpenAI, Anthropic cuts access, then OpenAI swoops in. So OpenAI's real strategy here is to own the agent layer, right? OpenAI didn't buy OpenClaw, they didn't need to. OpenClaw lives in an OpenAI sponsored foundation, and Codex OAuth is the new default onboarding for new users. And Sam Altman said himself, "We expect this will quickly become core to our product offerings." And every new OpenClaw user is now an OpenAI subscriber by default. And that's a great strategy. So the industry is splitting into two groups. Group A, Anthropic, control the models and the tools, lock the users in, higher margins per user. The risk is that it will push users to use different models, i.e. OpenAI. Or camp B, the OpenAI camp, control the models, they let others build the tools to make the models default everywhere, right? Large larger total addressable market share. The risk is commoditizing your own models, and this is pretty much just like Apple versus Android all over again. So here are what some people are doing right now on the internet. They're doing a hybrid approach or a tiered approach here. So for heartbeats and quick lookups, you're using Gemini flashlight for 0.5 per million tokens, not much intelligence needed, just a pulse check. For notifications and classifiers, DeepSeek v3.2 can handle the job for around 53 cents per million tokens. It's fast, cheap, reliable for simple tasks. For daily work and morning briefings and emails, GPT 5.2 does the job as well. Coding and complex analysis. And for deep research and weekly reports, Opus 4.6, only when you need the biggest brain. So I wanted to know your thoughts on what you think about Anthropic's play here. Is it smart? Is it not smart? But if you want access to this document as well, it's located inside my free school community called Claw School. Absolutely free. The documentations are all inside here, including the PycoClaw documentation as well as the security documentation. So feel free to click on the link in the description down below to join the free school community, because I feel like this is pretty valuable for all of us to come together and discuss newest updates and use cases of OpenClaw. And if you enjoyed this video so far and found some value, please give this video a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.